So we have the Game Awards tonight, and with that, I thought we would just go ahead and do something a little bit different than our usual news dose. Most of the current news flying around right now really centers around the Game Awards by this point, different rumors, leaks, and things like that. So, we'll talk about the Game Awards and all of that tomorrow after everything wraps up. Hopefully, we get at least a few super exciting reveals there. Definitely crossing my fingers for that. But yesterday's topic about Xbox got me to thinking. Is there a way that their consoles can bounce back next generation? And I think there is a chance that they could do something very interesting. Now, in order to answer this, though, we need to first kind of look at why they're in the situation that they're in. Now, maybe bouncing back is an overly dramatic way of putting it because, their gaming sector is in no danger. They're still making a lot of money, albeit their consoles isn't exactly flying off shelves either, and that's what I want to focus on in this video. Their console business, because what we're seeing from them is that they're looking beyond just their consoles. In their own words, they want everything to be an Xbox. They want your phone to be an Xbox, your TV, your PC, and just absolutely everything that they can turn into a quote-unquote Xbox. It's a complete brand change for them because they believe that this will allow them to reach a broader audience in the long run. And from a statistical point of view, it's hard to deny that. There's a lot of people that falls into these categories that don't have an Xbox console. Now, do these people fall into the hardcore gaming demographic, or could they ever be convinced to join? That's a tougher question to ask, and I think that's where there is some risk involved. In order to do some of the things that Microsoft wants to do, they almost have to sacrifice their console business to some extent, and that somewhat alienates their most dedicated fans. To market a plan like this, they have to somewhat de-emphasize console gaming. And that's where some of the concern starts to creep in for their longtime fans. So with that, Microsoft has to consistently reassure their dedicated fan base that's been with them for more than 20 years, hey, you're still important. We got your back, and we have more consoles in a way. And so far, they've attempted to do that. They already confirmed that they have ultra-powerful hardware on the way, and we know that they're working on a handheld as well. Now, we'll come back to that here in just a moment, because that's where things get really interesting. But the one issue that these same exact fans are a little bit less forgiving of is by porting their first-party games to rival consoles. For as long as consoles have existed, exclusivity has always been one of the main selling points. And the same can be said for subscriptions. You buy into Netflix because of things like Stranger Things or HBO Max because of Game of Thrones. Exclusivity sells platforms. This is not some big secret. So I don't think that it's their expanded approach that concerns their dedicated fans. It's new, it's different, but there's signs that even PlayStation is heading into this direction, albeit with a slightly different approach. They also have PC games, albeit they're staggered compared to what Xbox does with day one PC releases. And we also know for a fact that PlayStation is ramping up their cloud offering with the inclusion of the PlayStation Portal. You no longer have to own a PlayStation 5 console to play some PS5 games. I also wouldn't be surprised to see their cloud offering migrate to phones and PC in the future. Now, we'll kind of see what happens with all that, but rather what I think Xbox fans draws issue with is Microsoft's approach to port games to their rivals. People who prefer console gaming want to know that they're buying into a platform that can give them a unique and high-quality experience. So by porting their own games to PlayStation, it kind of de-emphasizes Xbox consoles even more so than their expanded approach. Now, if I were to give Microsoft one recommendation, it would be to pull back on that specific strategy. But that's also where the question comes in. Can Xbox successfully sell consoles next generation? By all indication, they have absolutely every intention to stay in the console business, and I think that's for a good reason. I've already given my perspective on this multiple times, but I believe that it's a very important component for their business, and that will remain the case for a long time going forward simply because they have a lot of money tied into their console business. They make a lot of money off of their subscriptions, which are mostly tied to their Xbox consoles. And they also make money off of third-party games that are sold on their platform. So the question is, can their next-generation consoles have success alongside this very unorthodox strategy? And I'm surprising myself by saying this, but yes. But I think that might be because their next generation strategy might be even more unique than what any of us expected. I almost wonder if they're going to come out and surprise everybody by doing something that we've never seen in the console space before. I mean, we know some of their plans on a surface level. We know that they have a home console that they claim is the largest technical leap in a hardware generation. We also know that they're working on a handheld platform. But going back to that quote-unquote largest technical leap in a hardware generation, one thing that you might notice about that statement is that they didn't specifically say in a console generation. They instead referred to it as simply hardware. And this leans into what I was saying yesterday. I almost wonder if they're working on an Xbox OS for PC, similar to how Valve built out SteamOS for Linux. If Xbox could somehow manage to pull something like this off, that would give them a very unique opportunity to combine the PC gaming experience, which is growing in popularity, into a console-like setting. Suddenly, consumers would have a console-like experience that could play everything. Valve already does that with their own operating system as is, but it can't play everything because it's based on Linux. So Xbox could theoretically do even more by giving consumers access to Xbox games, Game Pass games, Steam games, which, by the way, includes some PlayStation games, etc., on a single console-like experience. Even more so is that if an Xbox OS is built for PC, technically, they could go in the direction that Valve took with their Steam machines and are actually now rumored to do once again in the nearest future. That basically means that they could license out the Xbox OS to third-party companies like ROG and Lenovo to make their own variants of an Xbox console next generation. In fact, and this is very interesting, Jez Corden earlier this year actually mentioned that the next Xbox has a heavy Windows slant and will be a reference device for manufacturers making devices. So with that in mind, the possibility of other companies working on an Xbox console doesn't seem quite as far-fetched as maybe as what I'm making it out to be. So, I mean, if he's correct, we would basically be see Xbox going in the direction of Valve, but more on the Windows side of things. And the benefit for consumers is that they wouldn't have to wait 7 to 8 years to upgrade their console. There could be different variants from different companies for different preferences. As one such example, Xbox could release their own first-party version, and that could be like, let's just go and say $500 to $700. But then you could have somebody like ROG, and they could come out and make an even more powerful option at $1,000+. Now, I'm not saying that any of this will actually happen, but what I'm trying to convey here is that the idea of an Xbox OS is very intriguing for several different reasons. Unlike other console manufacturers, Xbox is in a unique position of being a PC company that just so happens to have a gaming console. There's always been speculation that Xbox could eventually tie the two together and make a PC-esque console. And now that they're suddenly revamping their Xbox PC app, the timing of this seems very interesting, and it makes me wonder if there's any truth to any of this. Could we actually see that speculation finally come to life in the nearest future with their next generation console, or in this case, multiple consoles? Now, admittedly, though, there are still some issues that comes along with this that they would need to tackle. One issue would be compatibility. As we know, OG Xbox games and Xbox 360 games, as two such examples, still aren't compatible on PC. And if they want full backwards compatibility, then they would need to work that out. Now, that seems fairly possible, though. Earlier this year, Sarah Bond said that we have formed a new team dedicated to game preservation, important to all of us at Xbox and the industry itself. We are building on our strong history of delivering backwards compatibility to our players, and we remain committed to bringing forward the amazing library of Xbox games for future generations of players to enjoy. Now, that seems like fairly interesting timing amidst all of the rumors to suddenly form a new team dedicated to game preservation, just kind of saying. But hypothetically, even though this is just speculation for the time being, I think that if they could actually pull all this off, then yes, I think they could find success. I don't think that their goal is to necessarily outsell the PlayStation 6. Phil Spencer famously said that they're not trying to out-console PlayStation and Nintendo. But what they could do is to differentiate themselves even more in a way that they could still attract a large audience and to appease their already established fan base. And I think a console-like PC experience could possibly do that if it also has at least some big exclusives, which I believe it will have. There's a reason that they haven't gone completely multi-platform. I would still expect games like Gears of War E-Day, Perfect Dark, and Fable to all be exclusive. I don't think they're going to abandon exclusivity entirely because they still need those exclusives to attract fans to their platforms, which will then sell subscriptions. So with that in mind, if they can get Xbox games plus Game Pass games plus Steam games and some exclusives with several powerful hardware options for next generation, that actually seems like a relatively enticing way to carve out an audience for their next platform, or again, maybe platforms. Let me know what you all think about all this. I'm just simply speculating here based on some of the things that we know, but what do you all think? Do you think Xbox could actually go in this direction? And if so, do you like the idea? Do you not? And do you think that it would be successful for them if they do? Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode. But until next time, make sure to hit that subscribe button and peace out.